Whilst the first couple of weeks of the off-season haven't seen too many moves from the players, despite many becoming free agents, that's not to say that we haven't heard anything further in regards to player releases and the status of some coaches, including a major hire from one of the organisations last night. So for today's video, before I get into my Overwatch World Cup content starting in the next couple of days, I want to go over that specific coaching change that has occurred, as well as noting some of the other newly revealed contract situations of some of the players since I made my last video on the topic. It makes sense therefore that I start with the most recent announcement which was revealed last night, as the Vancouver Titans said goodbye to their assistant coach Harsher, as he became the new head coach of the Houston Outlaws. This promotion for him comes on the back of years of hard work and grind, and now a very successful past season contributing towards Vancouver's success in 2019, was all on top of the regular season standings, winning stage 1, before going on to reach the grand finals, where the Titans were eventually defeated by the Shock. From looking at the general reaction to this news, from both the players and fans, it is clear that the majority of people are excited to see what Harsher can achieve with this team. A sentiment shared by myself, as from what I understand, he has a great understanding of the game, whilst also having the opportunity to work alongside some of the most talented coaches in the Overwatch League over the past couple of years, in Krusty and Pagion. That said, it is important that people, especially Houston fans, keep their expectations in check, as this will be his first real test at this level, being the number one man in charge, and he'll need to show his team making improvement with results to convince everyone. At the same time though, this means that the organisation will need to support him in regards to the roster this off-season as well, but for now, at least on the face of it, this is a move that has their fans optimistic. As I was finishing up this video, more news from the Houston Outlaws has dropped as well, so I thought I'd make a quick mention of it here, and that is that Arhan has been officially released by the team. We already knew that he was a free agent, but the fact that the team's official Twitter has put out this thank you post all but tells me they have no intention of re-signing him, which makes sense since he never really fit into the team. Perhaps he might be signed by another OWL team, but I think he'd only be able to find a position on the bench given the lack of playtime he's had, so perhaps he might return to the contenders scene in 2020 to try and get consistent playtime and potentially rediscover some of his old form. Harsher's appointment to Houston though wasn't the only head coach news that we learned yesterday, as one of the more vocal off-season organisations in the Toronto Defiant revealed that their new head coach would be Feifei, previously the coach of the Paris Eternal. I certainly think that this is an interesting move by the team, an opinion that seems to be echoed amongst many others, but it does suggest that the Defiant will be looking to build a Western-focused team primarily, perhaps only slightly mixed for 2020, and given some of the notable Canadian free agents available, it will be worth seeing if they are targeted, especially since they've been posting thank you tweets regarding Gods, Aid, Sharik, I'm 37, and most recently Yakpun, which would suggest they aren't getting re-signed by Toronto for the next season, when you remember they were all on team option deals before, but now have become open free agents. In regards to the majority of these players here, I can completely understand why they've been let go, primarily due to the inconsistencies in their displays, which does have me doubting that they will receive many Overwatch League offers, with a return to contenders most likely from my point of view. But I do feel bad for Gods, who I thought personally did an okay job week on week, and could perhaps have added experience from the bench position next season, although that's not to be. In other news, the Paris Eternal just announced they were parting ways with Kai. I don't think anyone could have seen that coming. One team I haven't had a chance to talk about since my last video, but at the same time has been one of the busier earlier on, has been the Washington Justice. I expect some of you to be already aware of the news, but last week they signed John Galt, previously of the LA Gladiators, as their head coach, before announcing at the beginning of this week that the previously team option Stratus was now fully signed on for the next season as well. Both of these decisions by Washington went down very well, especially with their fans. Starting with John Galt, he was one of the higher interest coaches available on the market, having had consistent success on the Gladiators, and now that he's coming into the organisation with a lot of momentum and some very promising young talent, you can see that the excitement is building. At the same time, it's important to specifically point out that Stratus is not only signed for 2020, but also 2021, which should see his progression and development that he showed alongside Corey at the end of last season continue, putting the Justice in a great place moving forward, with the security of knowing that he's a Washington player for the next 2 years. On the flip side though, just like in the case of Toronto, it seems clear that Washington is majorly changing up its roster for 2020, having made thank you posts for 6 of their players: Ado, Hyonu, Janice, Sansom, Guido and Sleepy, which once again suggests to me that their chances of being re-signed are very slim, especially in regards to Guido, who was on a team option previously. It appears therefore that the Justice are looking to change things up majorly next year to more consistently compete, and that will very likely be building around their DPS duo of Corey and Stratus, as well as their tank duo of Lulsish and Elivote in a predominantly Western roster. As for the 6 players who look to be moving on, unlike Toronto, I can't be as confident with where I think they'll end up for next season. I'd be surprised if Sleepy doesn't receive some offers within the Overwatch League, and you'd have to imagine that the performances towards the end of the season perhaps earn Janice, Guido and Sansom positions on the bench for other teams in 2020, potentially as well. As for Ado and Hyonu, I don't feel nearly as confident in them, and they may have to look back to contenders unless someone decides to pick them up. This next bit of news dropped last week and was expected, but just like all the other previous examples, it looks like Nevix will definitely be leaving the San Francisco Shock as they release his farewell post, even if we already knew he was a free agent. He's certainly a player to keep half an eye on this off-season, as he's regularly earmarked by players and analysts alike as a really great flexible player that when he's on stage has popped off, giving him the odd moment to show off his brilliant talent. Primarily playing at the flex tank position, there are many teams that could see a major upgrade with his arrival, such as Houston, Dallas, Toronto, etc. So it will be interesting to see how much interest he garners, and in the end, where he eventually goes. The last coaching related announcement I should probably discuss is the appointment by the LA Gladiators of Feifei as their head coach. In spite of all the behind the scenes drama surrounding this organisation at this moment in time, I think it's clear that a good choice has been made in the end for their vacant head coach position, with his experience with the current players and familiarity with how they play that has brought them success in the past being a great starting point. The key thing to point out here though is he's not only been named head coach for the LA Gladiators, but also their general manager at the same time. This is very interesting, as it means that Feifei now has complete freedom, finances depending, to build and coach his roster in a specific way that he would like. A freedom that I know a lot of coaches would love to have the luxury of. This will mean that for 2020, the Gladiators should have a firm team philosophy from top to bottom that will inform the decisions they make throughout the off-season, and potentially take them to the next level after back-to-back solid yearly performances. In the same vein as my Arhan mentioned earlier, there was another player released only a short time before him who I wanted to talk about now before I end this video, and that player is Meko. We've known for a little time now that Meko was headed into the off-season as a free agent, presumably the result of his initial Overwatch League contract ending. Many expected him to be re-signed, even if I personally have my own doubts, but with this post that the New York Excelsior just tweeted, it appears very likely now that he will not be rejoining his team next year, as it is yet another thank you post and video, laid out in a similar fashion to Arhan's and others I've previously mentioned. It's certainly an interesting decision by New York, and it'll be curious to see if the reason he hasn't been re-signed is due to too high contract demands, or whether it's a tactical decision by the Excelsior. Only time will tell. Certainly now though, I expect Meko to receive, and indeed already have received, some lucrative offers for his services, with a team like Shanghai sounding like a nice fit on paper, but he's definitely a free agent that we're all going to have to keep a very close eye on as we move throughout the rest of the off-season. But with that, we're reaching the end of all the news I have for you right now regarding the early action in the Overwatch League off-season, and I'd like to thank you for watching. Of course, I'll be returning to these sorts of videos periodically as news drops, but when I upload my next video, you can expect to return to my build-up towards the Overwatch World Cup. So if you enjoyed, please like, subscribe, and follow me on Twitter so you don't miss out. And I hope you enjoy the rest of your day.